everybody. Welcome to Obscure Animation. This is a show where we like to talk about a lesser known indie animated film, and we like to give it its day in the sun, I guess, and talk about it. And today we're diving into anime. So much fun. We're going to talk about one of my favorite directors, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to talk with you about this movie.
Yes. So we're talking about 5 centimeters per second by the great Makoto Shinkai. And is this the second Makoto Shinkai film you've
It's my
seen, or
it's my third.
third? Okay, so you've seen Weathering with You.
Weathering with You, and then
Okay.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen most of his films. There's a few of the really older ones, even older than this, that I haven't seen yet. But this is actually a collection of 3 shorts with the same characters. And I think this is a one worth watching, especially if there's people that get kind of overwhelmed with Makoto Shinkai's sci-fi and some of his more fantastical elements in movies like Your Name. Then I think this is a good one to steer them towards, because it's pretty much a young adult story. It doesn't really have any of those fantastical elements.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I find him he's just this hopeless romantic.
Yes, he is. He really is.
and so that was fun, because I honestly I didn't know what to expect, other than, I mean, I was hoping that there was gonna, it was gonna be a romance, and then also I was wondering how deep into sci-fi it goes, and it doesn't really go there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we watched Your Name together. That was one of the earliest movies. It was maybe our second or third movie that we watched together.
Yeah.
Really early on.
And that was so fun to see that on the big screen. And again, you're the one who always steers me to such cool animated films, in particular anime. And I mean, what a film to see on the big screen.
Oh.
Stunning. And so that was such a positive experience, and I'm so grateful to you for it. And I think I just feel like I want to see everything that Makoto Shinkai has done now, because I really enjoyed watching this. It's a really different kind of film, and it doesn't have the sci-fi element. And also, I thought the pacing was interesting, but again, maybe part of that is because of the 3 episodes that are stitched together.
I just love the humanity in his characters. I mean, the animation and the way he uses music is just outstanding. And I mean, if you want to hear me gush for, I think, 2 hours, Your Name podcast that I did with our friend Christine Tyler, we talked about it, I think, for almost 2 hours, just every last detail of that movie.
Which it merits,
I have a family movie night review. I have a really cool video I did after it came out, when it came out into theaters, and I went through and got a whole bunch of critics from YouTube and compiled them into one master video of all the different things they were saying about Your Name, just trying to get people to go see it. And I mean, I would say I probably have gotten around 100 people to see, through my greater influence over the years, my constant, incessant begging, getting them to see Your Name. And almost all of them have liked it. Even the ones that, there were a couple that didn't love it, but admired it. You know what I mean? Even the ones that didn't love it like me, still, it wasn't like they hated it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty solid recommendation, I think. And I even got to interview Radwimps, the band. That was amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, for Rotoscopers.
Oh, my goodness.
Cool. And the reason that made me think about this movie is because I did a trailer reaction to his new movie that's coming out in Japan this year. Probably won't get to us until, I'm guessing, next March or April.
That's what I'm wondering, next spring, right? You think, when it's gonna,
But if you want to see my trailer reaction, Suzumi no Tojimari is the Japanese name. And I am just so excited for that movie. It looks really amazing with all, again, a lot more fantasy. It looks like there's a boyfriend or some figure that gets turned into a chair. And there's something like that going on. And there's a cat.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's a cat, a magical cat of some kind. And some people say that Makoto Shinkai is the new Hayao Miyazaki. What do you think about that?
I mean, I guess, I know that seems always important that somebody's got to be the new or the
Yeah.
next somebody, like, oh, this is the next Steven Spielberg, or, whatever. But, and, possibly, I just think he's an excellent filmmaker, and his films are beautiful, and I think
Yeah.
in their own way. And I mean, sure, I guess if somebody has to, be the next Miyazaki, I guess I just don't think of it in those terms. I can see why. I don't necessarily want to be critical of it, but I just think, no, he's great just because he's himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's true. I mean, people say the same thing with Hosada all the time. Oh, the
Yeah.
next Miyazaki.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay.
He can just be his own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have some similarities in the, things like the, young female protagonist and the flying and the use of water and some of the other things that they
Sure.
both do. But yeah, in this movie, it's pretty it's pretty morose compared to Your Name and Weathering with You, which Weathering with You was like defiantly romantic. I mean, I like to the point that like their romance is more important than like a lot of people dying.
Right.
It's like,
exactly.
That's a weird message.
Which is kind of an odd, yeah. But again, that's why I think he's just such a romantic, and
yeah,
I just and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Again, not wanting to beat up this comparison.
Yeah.
But I feel like his films are really, again, they're his own thing. I mean, Miyazaki makes such spectacular. His films are just fantastic. In every regard, but they're different. They're different.
Yeah,
they're his films. And these films, I really love. I love the romance part of it, frankly. Which it's kind of surprised me, but I think that's what makes them special.
Yeah, and like I said, this one is kind of morose compared to Your Name or Weathering with You.
It is morose, and I can't say. I mean, I guess I got kind of frustrated with the characters because I think it's almost to the point of like, how long are you going to be sad about being in this relationship?
I know. You do get a little frustrated with Takari that like he's got two of these women who just love him. And why doesn't he just be with one of them? Like, figure it out. But he's just a teenager. What are you going to do?
Yeah, he's a teenager. and then also it's just, it's kind of, that's just important is, being all kind of sad about, about love.
I kind of joke in Hallmarkies that I'm just tired of the whole plotline of we don't live in the same city, so therefore we can't be in love. And it's like, okay, that's so easily solvable. It's not interesting to me. I mean, at least in this case, again, they're teenagers, so they don't have like choices of where they move, and it's not the same. Because I guarantee you, if I fall in love with somebody who doesn't live in my state, and no one hates moving more than I do, I will move to be with that person. Promise.
Yeah, as you said, this is a solvable.
It's a solvable
maybe
problem.
Not as solvable as when you're a teenager and you're not you're not necessarily an adult.
Well, it starts out with the short called Cherry Blossoms, and it's Takaki and Akari. And Akari moves, so they end up writing letters to each other, which is an inherently very romantic thing.
Oh, absolutely. And beautifully told in the film, or within this particular chapter. Yeah.
Yes. And in this one he tried. It said in some of the things I read that Shinkai, his film gives a realistic view of the struggles many people have to face time, space, people, and love. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. This one does try again to be more realistic. And so he's going to go and visit her. Yes, they both have letters they've written to each other telling how much they love each other. And the train gets delayed, and then he says, "The next week I became unbearably sad. How was I to treat these feelings?" I have to say, I
And
do think the dub is not the best in this movie.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think I really wish that I could have watched the sub,
Mm-hmm.
but but then
It's hard to take notes of sub.
yeah,
Um,
I was thinking though too. That, I mean, just that was part of, I guess, some of my earlier expressed frustration
mm-hmm.
with just it's more with the characters in that this kid just decides just to be sad all the time because he
Mm-hmm.
wishes he could be with this girl, and it's like, dude, get
Well, they
over.
both decide to not give each other their letters, and we get to see that even though they go to the
Yeah.
station, they drink tea together, then they kiss, and he says, "We would never be together. We're too far apart." And then she says, "Takaki, you'll be fine. I'm going to write you. I'm going to call you." And I do like that he creates such like a sense of place. You really feel like you are there.
Oh yeah,
And I love the fact that you can see their breath,
I do
which you
too.
don't often have in animated films. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you don't often get that touch. And it really feels like winter. You feel cold.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think so too. I love. I feel like I mean the animation is just stunning. I think.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. I just love animated Tokyo or just animated
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
any kind of modern day Japan, even though they're just like animating a building or a street. I just something there's something about it that's just so pleasing to me. And
Yeah.
then this just
Beautiful.
sets the mood so well with the rain and
Mm-hmm.
and the location, like the trains, the train station and all that, like that walk that they take, and just the mood is set so well through the visuals again, which I just think
Mm-hmm.
is just part of the director's um, skill.
Yeah.
What a nice job.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the second short is called Cosmonaut.
Yes.
And so we moved up to 1999. Takake is in high school in Tanegashima. And there's near the Tanegamashina, sorry, I'm butchering that, Space Center, I guess, that's there. And he is, thinking all about the stars. And he just does stars and comets and vistas and uh, all of that so beautifully. I mean, you really see the baby seeds for your name in this in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. You do, don't you? You see the kind of the genesis of yeah.
And I can't think of a movie that uses music more effectively than Your Name. I mean, the even though it's not even in my own language and I prefer it in the Japanese, the singing, because to me, for some reason, when it's in the English, it sounds a little rushed to me, compared to the Japanese in the music. But anyway, I just the way that it just helps kind of open up those skies for you, and you just get drawn in your name. And I think again you see the baby steps for that here, the seedlings.
I totally agree. Because I couldn't stop thinking about your name.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was, and I think that's probably it. Just because these little things are happening, and just yeah, they're very. It's like just a precursor, right, or kind
Mhm.
of a predictor of of where he's gonna go.
Yeah. And so this short is about Kane or Kanai, and she's in love with Takake, but she can't get the courage to tell him. And this one's the most bittersweet of all.
Yeah, true.
hmm And but she loves to surf, and you know me, I love the water.
Yeah,
So I loved these scenes, the
those
surfing
scenes
scenes.
were really beautifully done too, weren't they?
So good.
Yeah,
And she says, "How far will we go to find those answers? How far can we go?" So, and Takare, I mean Takakai, he writes these emails that are he doesn't send them. He just writes them, and uh, kind of it reminded me of in You've Got Mail when she says, "I'm just sending this out to the great to nobody." that uh, the great void, she says. That's kind of feels like for Takake, and I think that that is something we've maybe a little bit lost is sort of there's something about writing a real letter as opposed to just a text that really you kind of have to think about what you're trying to say in a different way.
hmm,
And I feel like we so often don't take the time to really sit and think and really write in that way.
yeah, I'm with you. Because we're just so used to a quick note that you're typing
hmm
on your phone and expecting an instant response.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just a whole different thing. Whereas this, you know, I mean, there's time, and also it takes time to get a response,
Yeah.
because they're writing a letter that's gonna be sent in the mail, and then I just think Rachel back to my, I mean, I'll admit I'm an old man, but when I served my mission, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
Yeah.
I was in Italy, and it was like I'd be lucky if I got a response to my questions from a letter in like a 2-week time period, because
Right.
I'd write the letter, I'd have to send it, it'd have to get delivered, and then they'd have to write send it.
I know I'm
We
so
were,
jealous of missionaries now that they can call their family
yeah,
and stuff like
they
that.
call their
What?
family once a week. And I don't know what the rules are, but I wonder if they can text more often,
Yeah, I think they can.
or whatever,
And go on social media.
yeah,
They
be
can
on social media, and
I
and I know that the times are different, and that it's a boon, but I just think, I
yeah.
mean, I'm with you.
I
I'm jealous, but in a strange way, there was some beauty to the
mhm.
delay. Just as you're saying, like with the letter writing,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
in this movie,
yeah. And the it's frustrating because the two have this connection. They walk together, they talk together, but they just can't seem to tell to express that. And she says he was always looking right past me, something very far away, and he couldn't see me. And I feel like usually, especially with Shinkai, you don't normally get sort of these it didn't end up happening love stories.
right?
Because people want like more of a, people want a happy ending, people want or a tragic ending depending on the story. But this story, I think, is kind of unique in here.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I wanted to ask you about that because, again, not being as familiar with Shinkai's work as you are, if this was a little bit unusual, or a little bit of a kind of a deviation from the norm, or also did it just kind of work well for this, the way that these three stories are are connected to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like again, we said whether with you, the ending is basically this love story is more important than anything else. And
Yeah.
maybe it's partly because he's more invested in the Akare Takake
Yep.
relationship, and so this one kind of gets left by the wayside. But it does make for an unusual story, and I think maybe it's the kind of story that would only work as a short
Oh, good point.
be-
Yeah.
because you want more of a happy ending, I think, in a feature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point.
Hmm. They watched the launch at the space station, space center, and again, that was very beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and so I think that's the highlight of this is both the space launch and the surfing. I think are the highlight of this one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The surfing, and again, kind of like weathering with you, right? A little bit. I I just think there's just so much. I just admire the animators so much. Let's just put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
Just that they capture it in the wonderful way that they do. Ah, beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, just I just would love to talk to him one day. It said in on the Wikipedia, he says that five 5 centimeters per second comes from the speed at which cherry blossom petals fall. Petals being a metaphorical representation of humans, reminiscent of the slowness of life and how people often start together but slowly drift into their separate ways. So I think especially in the second one, you see that
Yeah,
that uh, they they have a connection, but they just can't quite make it work.
they can't quite make it work. And what a great metaphor. And I'm so sorry. I'm just like Mr. One Note here. But were those little blossom leaves
Oh,
gorgeous?
it was
You
so
know,
beautiful.
and so meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
When you know that that's where they're coming from, or that's where it gets its title.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, beautiful,
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Anyway, I loved it.
So then for our third short, it's 5 centimeters per second, and we bump ahead to 2008. And Takake is a programmer in Tokyo. And you see a little bit of this also in Your Name. He loves having the two people walk past each other, realize they have a connection, and then look back, right? Kind of thing. And
Yep.
he would, of course, master that in Your Name with the ending, which I think is the best ending in, for me, any movie ever. I absolutely love that ending. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
They see each other on the stairs. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, he hates his job, and that is always going to be a kind of a plot point that works for me. The epic quit, the miserable in your job, and hoping for something better because I've been there.
Yeah.
It's like in The Office, Oscar. It's one of my favorite quotes of his, and he's like, "I love an epic quit story. I hope to have one of my own someday."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so Kari is preparing to marry another man, but Takake still longs for Akari, and he basically can't like function very well because and he can't like develop a new relationship. And but then Akari finds her old letter that she never gave to him, and he says, I was just going through the motions of my life. And his Takaki's girlfriend breaks up with him because he's kind of the worst.
Yeah.
And he says, I was reaching for something I didn't have, but I didn't know what it was. Again, you see this in Your Name. He knows there's somebody out there for him. He sensed it on the train, and he goes out to try to find her. They're like, what are you looking for? And he's like, I don't know. I just have to go. And I think that's what I think Your Name works so well for spiritual people like you and I, because it's about listening to that spirit, about believing in something bigger than yourself, right? And going out and making it happen. And so he has a little bit of that here, that's similar to uh, what they experience in Your Name. Because
Yeah.
he knows that Misoha is out there. He can feel it, but
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to
Yeah.
find her.
Exactly. And what do you think about that, Rachel? I mean, do you think that uh does that work in the story, or is it just like, please?
Yeah,
Or
I think
what was your
I
take
think
on
it's
it?
really good because I believe it. I think there are people that we are supposed to meet and that we do have that spiritual connection with. I mean, speaking of mission, I definitely felt that with some people on my mission. I felt that with friends, that I'm that I've never felt it with a romantic relationship. I'm still waiting on that one,
Yeah.
but I do believe that there are people that are supposed to be in your life, and that you're supposed to find and help. I don't think everything is that way. I don't think everything is fated, but I do think there are those key moments of life which really matter, and that God has a hand in.
You know, I do too, and I think that's, I guess, why this felt satisfying.
Yeah.
Because it was it's a way I believe too. Although I appreciated kind of this different vantage point of it,
Hmm.
but it resonated with
Yeah.
me.
Well, and I just love this idea of he breaks free from. He says, "I was just going through the motions of my life," because I know how that feels. And when I was miserable in my job, I remember talking with my mom, and she was saying, "Why is this so hard for you? You've done a lot of hard things." And I remember telling her that I felt like I had a black cloud over my life, and I couldn't make it go away. It was just there. And it wasn't until I finally took that leap of faith and quit that job that everything turned around, and I was able to be happy. And so I think that there's just something so emotionally true about a character that says, "Nope, I'm tired of not being happy. I'm tired of living this life, and I'm just going." And he says, "I was reaching for something I didn't have, but I didn't know what it was." So then he quits his job, and you get this sort of musical montage.
Yeah.
And that is a plot line that will almost always work for me, just because of my own experience.
Well,
But
because you can really, yeah,
yeah,
you can truly relate to it,
yeah,
firsthand. Well, I was so happy when he finally quit his job too, because it's just like,
yes.
oh, it's about time, because he's been so miserable, Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, you get this musical sequence at the end. And I think that I wrote down he perfected this ending in Your Name with them finding each other. And so I think that he didn't quite get it here. He was close with that musical
Yeah, it was
sequence.
close.
But I feel like we needed like one more scene.
I wanted to get your opinion
Yeah.
about that.
With them basically saying, "Do I know your name?"
Mm-hmm.
That we
Mm-hmm.
needed one more scene with them remembering and maybe finally exchanging the letters. I think that would have been really cool.
That would have been cool, because that's just all left to your imagination. Again, I
Mhm.
mean, I was hoping, that's what would have happened.
Yeah.
But we don't know. We don't know.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's this this movie? Do you have one of the segments that you like better than the others?
I'm actually kind of partial to that first segment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that one just worked for me. Worked for me the best, particularly when Takake goes, gets on the train and goes to see her.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
whole, I think there's one shot in particular where they're walking. I guess I don't know if it's on a bridge or down,
Mm-hmm.
just that lit street, that path. But
Mm-hmm.
I loved how that was framed, and I just felt like it was
Yeah, and that whole kiss
symbolic
is
and beautiful.
the kiss is so well done.
Yeah, the kiss is
They
great.
drink
Yeah.
that tea.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really worked for me. I, I did enjoy it all,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I'm with you. I I wish there had been a little bit more in the ending. Again, not trying to second guess someone's art,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that for me that would have been probably a little more satisfying.
Yeah. I
you
mean, it's
know,
only 63 minutes, so they
yeah,
could have
it's
we could have had a whole nother short, I think.
yeah. What was your favorite?
I think the second one might actually be my favorite, even though it doesn't have a car. Just the surfing and the launch and kind of the bittersweet nature too is unique. But I like all three very much, and I think it's beautiful and something unique. Just to see the start of a director that this is not his first, but one of his early works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I did ask on Twitter my followers what they thought of this movie, and our friend Cameron Ward, who did a ranking with us, he said it's decent. It's one of the earlier examples of Makoto Shinkai's obsession with relationships in terms of distance. I remember being fairly bored by it. It was definitely a weaker film in his filmography. He really hit his stride with films like Your Name and Weathering with You, which is fair.
Which is yeah.
But I mean, comparing a movie to Your Name is like,
Yeah, I mean, Your
I mean,
Name is
that's
just so perfect.
yeah, a solid film to a masterpiece. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then Cameron Craig, it was just the Cameron show, I guess. He says to Cameron's comment, he says, perfectly said, though I thought Weathering You was kind of mid, the stakes and messaging were incongruous with the theme, I thought. I mean, I think that is the ending is bonkers. It's really weird
Yeah,
to Weathering with You.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
all those people are going to die for this love. It's sort of weird,
It's weird. Yeah,
but
a
it's
little
so
disturbing.
beautiful. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. It was at the time because I was so hyped. And I normally don't get that hyped about, movies. I try to, as a critic, try to stay pretty grounded, but it was hard because I loved Your Name so much. It was a little disappointing, whether with you, but especially on a second and third watches, I grew to appreciate it more, and that disappointment kind of lessened. I really enjoy it, but it's just the ending's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Agreed.
so so there we go. That is 5 centimeters per second. It's, I think, a beautiful little grouping of shorts, and it's such a small time investment that I think it's definitely worth it for 63 minutes to give it a watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check
So
it out.
if you all have any thoughts about 5 centimeters per second, put in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for obscure animation or indie animation that you want us to cover, we do this once a month, then let us know. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of fun stuff. And I'll put my link for my Rad Wimps interview and all of my other Your Name content in the
Yes.
description because you want to check that out.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun stuff. And that new trailer because it's
Yes.
beautiful. It looks so exciting. I can't wait. So take a look at that. And if you were listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store where you can get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So please take a look at that. And thanks so much, Stanford. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk again next month.
Hey, thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.